oceans are in trouble. Fisheries across the globe are rapidly declining due to unsustainable fishing practices, and many sea creatures will disappear in our lifetime. The question is, what can you do about it? The answer? You can do a lot. Let's take a look at our friend Jackie. Jackie is at her local store and she's shopping for dinner. She wants to buy fish because it's a healthy option, but she wants to make sure it's sustainable because she cares about the environment. In the grocery store, it's hard to tell that we're running out of fish in the sea. But when we take a step back, we see a different picture. In the ocean, fish populations are declining, but our demand for seafood continues to grow. We take more than 500 million pounds of seafood out of the ocean each day. It's not just that we're taking too many fish out of the sea, there are also problems with how we fish. Some boats drag fishing gear across the seafloor, damaging sensitive habitats like corals, and others use nets and hooks that accidentally kill species like seabirds, seals, and turtles. As wild fish populations have declined across the globe, fish farming, also known as aquaculture, has become more and more popular. Just like we raise cows and chickens, we also raise fish. And surprisingly today, over half of the fish we eat actually comes from a farm. While some types of fish farming are good, this process is not without faults. Chemicals and waste from fish farms can pollute nearby habitats. And diseases from fish farms can spread to nearby wild populations. So, given all these problems, what should Jackie buy? Even though it may...
So, what should Jackie buy? Good morning, everyone. My name is Ariane Guthrie.
I'm Sandy Marin.
I'm Rachael White.
I'm Marita Hejl.
And I'm Trisha Hejl.
And today we will be discussing our Dean's Leadership 50 experiential learning project, in which we assessed local knowledge and attitudes regarding sustainable seafood to provide a basis for further efforts to educate the public about this critical topic. To give you an overview of our presentation, we will first define sustainable seafood and provide more of a background on its importance. The video that you just saw was created by the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and we thought it was a great summary of some of the ecological impacts that non-sustainable fishing and farming can have. Sandy will discuss a little bit more of the background of sustainable seafood, along with the difference between wild-caught and farm-raised and the impacts of each. We will then discuss the details of our project, beginning with our objectives. Rachael will discuss our methods along with our research instruments. Trisha will present our results and our conclusions, and Marita will finish us off with our recommended next steps based on these conclusions.
So, what is sustainable seafood? Sustainable seafood represents a movement of fishermen, fish farmers, industry, and consumers all striving to maintain current seafood yields in upcoming years. This entails a management practice called maximum sustainable yield, whereby fishermen take as many fish out of the population as possible to provide maximum benefit to consumers while still protecting the reproductive capabilities of the populations so that they will be able to maintain their yields in future generations. There are typically two types of seafood available to the public when you go to the grocery store. That's wild-caught and farm-raised. The first one I'll discuss is wild-caught. That is where mature fish are extracted from natural populations. People often praise wild-caught because they are natural from natural populations, but it comes with its pitfalls when the method of harvest and over-harvest are discussed. One problem is that natural populations are often very sensitive, and when fishermen don't really have an idea of how populations rebound from harvest, they take too many out of the population, which ultimately leads to a decrease, leading to possible extinction or loss of function in the ecosystem. Another issue is the method of catch. As discussed in the video, there are a couple different ways that people catch seafood. One of them in which fishermen use very large nets to harvest populations, and they don't scrutinize what they're catching very carefully. They will just take anything in their net, and some of these include byproducts of dolphins, sea turtles, and other species that humans often hold dear, or a species that might be endangered. The other type of seafood available to the public is farm-raised, which is where animals are raised in controlled environments by managers for human consumption and harvest. It's often praised because it removes pressure from wild-caught on native populations so that these populations will have time to thrive and replenish themselves. But that's not to say it comes without its pitfalls. There are some potential for mismanagement in aquaculture when managers pack too many fish into a small area, and then these areas become very polluted. Not only the immediate vicinity becomes toxic, but downstream water users often feel the effects of this pollution. So which is more sustainable? Ultimately, the answer is neither. It all depends on the way they're managed. Wild-caught has the potential to be sustainable if managers really pay attention to the populations and make sure not to over-harvest. Aquaculture can be sustainable if managers make sure to feed the fish a proper diet and to give them the space that they need to thrive. Often, in a day and age where there's so much seafood available to consumers, it can be hard to distinguish what's sustainable and what's not sustainable. So the Monterey Bay Aquarium has a seafood watch program where they've developed an app, and they also have online resources where consumers can go visit their website and determine what seafood is sustainable, what's good to eat right now, or maybe what to avoid.
So as you can see, there are some wonderful tools available to consumers that would allow them to be more discerning and knowledgeable when purchasing seafood. As Sandy mentioned, a prime example of this would be the Monterey Bay Aquarium's Seafood Watch app, which puts this information at the tips of our fingers. The problem, however, is that many people are not aware that these resources are available to them, or furthermore, are not aware of what sustainable seafood entails and why it is so important. So the key problem here is awareness or lack thereof, which brings us to our